We all woke up, thought it was going to be a normal Thursday. I mean, I spoke to our managing editor on Monday, and my news to her, my report on the week was this is either going to be the most boring or the most exciting week of the offseason. And honestly, I think it's both, because you go stretches of nothing, but every day is something wild and you never know when it's going to come. And for the Steelers, it just keeps on coming. We've gone Aaron Rodgers. We've gone Deebo Samuel. We've gone Russell Wilson on Russell Wilson. We've gone Matthew Stafford. This morning, we went Trevor Lawrence down south. Everybody woke up to the news from Ryan Burr of the Big Ten Network that tweeted out, quote, Steelers have made inquiries to the Jacksonville Jaguars about a trade for quarterback Trevor Lawrence. This directly from the horse's mouth in the Jags organization. Wow. Explanation point. What? Everybody freaks out. Everybody writes it, tweets about it. Everybody shares their thoughts. I think half of Steelers Nation fell in love with the idea immediately, and the other half started a full-blown panic about how the Pittsburgh Steelers were going to get a guy who's thrown 46 interceptions in 4 years. We all sat, we lingered in it, we waited for it to calm down. There were instant reports out of Jacksonville saying this isn't that true. Then our sources spoke. We spoke to sources. All Steelers Talk did in Pittsburgh and in Jacksonville. And this is what I have to tell you. A senior Pittsburgh Steelers source tells All Steelers Talk exclusively, this is right from my report earlier today, quote, there has never been, nor was there at any time, implied or directly, any imposition about Trevor Lawrence. Continued, I am certain that any official with the Jacksonville Jaguars would confirm this. Simply not true. End quote. Well, I was directed to a source in Jacksonville, a senior executive source in Jacksonville, that gave me this quote. A source, again, this is right from my report, a senior Jacksonville Jaguar source called the reports, quote unquote, laughable, confirming the sources out of Pittsburgh. That is where we stand right now. It has been a wild day. It has been a wild week of quarterbacks, safeties calling out quarterbacks, and it's only Thursday. We have one more day to close this bad boy off, and who knows what's going to happen in the next 16 hours when we're on here again, 17 hours when we're on here again. But Trevor Lawrence, the former first overall pick in the NFL draft, 25 years old, signed to a 5-year, $275 million contract that, if you do not get out of it in 2028, costs you $78 million in one season and $74 million the year after that. He has a new head coach, and quite frankly, still nobody to answer the phone from Pittsburgh. Trevor Lawrence, you could be upset with it. You could be joyous about it. He's not coming to Pittsburgh. We have that pretty locked down. And when you listen to all of the internet saying the same thing, it just tends to seem like, well, today a report got flown out there that wasn't true. Not saying that Ryan Burr got the wrong news or just lied. I'm just saying that wasn't true. And the truth is, the Steelers, they made no such phone call. And I don't believe they would about the 25-year-old worth $275 million. I just rambled a little bit for a couple minutes there. Gave my big spew about what's going on. I know you have thoughts on this. You could share. What do you got?
Yeah, my initial thought was, who is the horse's mouth himself? Because there's no general manager for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So yeah, who exactly is that horse's mouth? Because the info he gave was more like the horse's other side. So I understand that it's something that immediately lit the world on fire. I mean, Trevor Lawrence came into the NFL as the next big guy. He was the next big thing in the NFL, but it makes no sense in general. Like, even if you discount the fact that they don't have a general manager, therefore there's not really that many people you can call that would actually okay this deal. They just signed a wonderkind offensive-minded head coach. If anything, why wouldn't he want to rehabilitate somebody who has won a division title in the AFC South, has won a playoff game in his career, and is still very young? It made no sense to me that they would be looking to move on from Trevor Lawrence. I understand that contract is not great, but it's not like the options on the open market, as we've talked about all off season long, are all that appealing right now. So from the jump, I was a little skeptical, and hearing the reports coming out of both Pittsburgh and Jacksonville via Steelers on SI, it made all of the sense in the world that is not happening in the slightest.
No. I again, I don't even know if in the history of the NFL, I would imagine it has happened, but I would imagine it's very rare how many times a team has made a trade without actually having a general manager. I don't know who you would do that or why you would do that. I also, again, just like you said, don't know who the Steelers would call, because unless you're calling, what's his name, Shaka Khan himself, and saying that's not his name.
It's not Shaka Khan. No.
What is it?
Shad Khan and his son's Tony.
Khan. There it is. And unless you're calling him directly and saying, we want your quarterback, I don't know who you're getting on the phone with and asking about a price. It's not like the third guy down answers the phone in Pittsburgh and says, oh, Justin Fields, 3rd round pick. I'm thinking a 3rd round pick. I'll get that confirmed for you, but 3rd round pick. No, Omar Khan's not calling anybody but the active GM in Jacksonville to have a 5-second conversation that either turns into a long drawn out conversation or a 5-second conversation. That is all that happens. I mean, it would have been an interesting storyline. I'm not going to be the guy that says I'd be opposed to Trevor Lawrence. I don't think I would be. I think in the offseason that the Steelers are dealing with, Trevor Lawrence is a fine option. I'm not paying Trevor Lawrence that much money, but at the same time, Trevor Lawrence's contract is terrible, but is set up in a way where you could get out of it before it gets really bad. And I think in 2025 is only $17 million, something like that. 2026 is 24. It's essentially what Justin Fields is going to get paid either way. The only difference is you're not locked down to Justin Fields if that's your option. And you'd be locked down to Trevor Lawrence if he continues to throw 17 and 14 interceptions in a season. If he just continues to not be able to turn into what we thought Trevor Lawrence was going to turn into. Too many question marks. I'm sorry. Trevor Lawrence is not a name. It was a good run. It was a good couple of hours. We got 4 hours out of complete chaos. I'll be honest with you. I answered the phone and said, took you long enough when I got the phone call today. Took you long enough. I knew it was coming. Everybody knew it was coming. But there's wild reports all season long, or all week long, I would say. I mean, we've dealt with Aaron Rodgers. We've dealt with Stafford. We've dealt with the NFL draft. We've dealt with Russell Wilson. So I think we have to kind of lay the groundwork here. And that's where we'll start in this next conversation. And then we'll tie it into who the best options are if Trevor Lawrence isn't coming to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And those options are not as good. Let me ask this. Outside of Matthew Stafford, who we'll dive into here in a second, is there an option better than Trevor Lawrence?
When it comes to pure talent and potential upside, no, I don't think there is an option. I know that there's going to be people that point out that he has all these interceptions. He went 2-8 last year. He got injured at the end of the year. His contract is horrible, but pure talent wise, if he was on the open market right now, he'd be the best quarterback. He'd be the best option, especially considering the age gap between him and Matthew Stafford. He would edge out Stafford. Now, the problem is with Lawrence is you do have that contract. You can't wipe it away. And you're going to have to pay probably a lot in order to acquire Trevor Lawrence. And that is this is the last piece that we need move. The Steelers are more than one piece away from doing the thing. So that's not a move that would make sense, even if he was on the open market, or on the trade market, I should say, this summer.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree. I think that he'd be phenomenal if he was a free agent. He's not a free agent.
Nope.
Like, okay, great. Go trade for Justin Herbert while you're at it. That's
exactly.
that sounds awesome. Who knows what happens? That sounds awesome. We could toss any name out there. I think the biggest point that you brought up was the head coach. Like, you don't steal the guy from Baker Mayfield and have him lie about going to the doctor's office for his kid so that you could trade your quarterback and leave them with nobody. Who are they going to draft in the draft? They're not going to get Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. Jackson Dart. They're trading for Jackson Dart. That's where we're at here. Okay. Sounds good.